Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Good Grief on Thursday. I'm getting together. My special guest is Miss Crystal Partney, and we are excited to talk with her. But before we do, let's go ahead and get our intro in, and we'll come back and talk to Miss Crystal. Good evening again, everybody. How hope everyone is having a wonderful, wonderful Thursday. Welcome to another Thursday night Good Grief. You know how we do here. We start with respect. There is no good ways to grieve. The only bad way to grieve is if you don't do it. There are no wrong answers, no wrong questions, and you are where you're supposed to be. And we're not pushing people to be further than where they are. We are just so excited about what's happening with our good grieving, and that people are actually having the conversation. So we're again welcome, welcome, welcome. Y'all know me. I'm just Troya. You know I'm silly, have a good time, but also very serious about this thing called grief and grieving. Before we get started, like we always do. Y'all know I love the Lord, so we're going to pray. Um, our Father and our God, we thank you for another day. We thank you for waking us up today. God, we thank you for this episode of Good Grief. God, we thank you for our special guest, Miss Crystal. God, we just thank you for the connection that she and I have. God, we just thank you for everyone that's listening. Again, God, just continue to bless them as they and remove us and let your words come through, Lord God. We just thank you for all that you do, all that you say. We say all these things in your blessed Son, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Welcome.
Thank
So
you. Thanks
I am
for having
so
me.
yes, I'm so excited about having her on. So you guys know, if you those who before I forget, please like and share. Like and share. You can we are on YouTube and Facebook, of course. So like and share, like and share. If you can, if you go look and see my new, I'll try to show it later. My new YouTube page is up, so you can go over there to subscribe. Yay! But but with that said, so Crystal and I met was about a month or so ago.
Yeah, just a little over a month ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she had. I think I shared with you guys that I was invited to be one of the guests on this grief summit, which was amazing. That's how we met Dr. Jones, who was on last week. I met her through Crystal, and right after the broadcast, I was like, I have to have her on. Her story is amazing. It's heartbreaking, but it's amazing where God is taking her to now, and the path that she is on. She is, and we appreciate her because we have what is a 3 hour time zone difference. She's out there.
It's about it's 2 hour time difference, but it's all good. My husband's got my little girl, and I said you guys can just go to grandma's and hang out for a little bit. So
You're in Utah, right? Is it Utah?
yeah, I'm in
Yeah.
Utah. Yep.
See, look at this. So we're nationwide. Yay!
Woo!
But what I want to do, I am going to give Crystal the floor. And again, guys, you know how we do. Just ask as many questions as you want. Fill up the timeline. I mean the live, and we'll ask and answer all of the questions again because that's what we're here for. Good grief is making sure that we move out, we don't allow, even though the cement may be poured, we're pulling you out before it gets hardened and you get stuck in your grief, and that's not what we want to do. So with that said, Miss Crystal, please tell everybody who you are, and yeah, just talk about yourself.
Sure, sounds good. So for those of you that don't know me, my name's Crystal. I am the founder and CEO of two companies. The first one being Scattering Hope. And the second one is called Owl and Thistle. So that's owl as in the bird, hoo hoo. And the two companies actually act like sisters and they complement each other very well. The first company, Scattering Hope, is focused on healing after losing someone to suicide. And as I just mentioned, the sister company to Owl and Thistle, or excuse me, the sister company to Scattering Hope is Owl and Thistle. And Owl and Thistle focuses on prevention and preventing someone from taking their life. And my story begins last year, the day before my 32nd birthday. My sister Gina took her life. And after that tragedy in our family, I just needed next steps on how I could begin my healing journey. And so I started. And it was shortly thereafter that I really felt compelled to help other people, other families going through a similar experience. And thus the creation of Scattering Hope was born. And as I began creating Scattering Hope and what I wanted that to look like and entail, I also got the inspiration, the download, probably from my sister, but I got the download nonetheless to start a sister company and focus on prevention. And so that is what I have created. And like I said, they just worked so well together. They complement each other and they, focus on such a sensitive topic. But I really have a heart and a passion behind both companies. And I'm just striving to really honor my sister and her memory in both companies and provide hope to those that really need it most on both ends of the spectrum, whether you have lost someone to suicide or you maybe know someone that has even attempted suicide or is maybe contemplating suicide. I just want to let you know that you are not alone and that together we can provide hope. So,
And that is awesome. So Dr. Jones is on. Hey, Dr. Jones. Hey, Crystal. Um, and I apologize ahead of time, Crystal. I do that if I see somebody come in. I'm like, hey, what's going on?
no, please do. I'm glad.
So okay, so let's talk about that because that is such a huge stigma, right? People who die from suicide. How did you how did you process that? I mean, I know I had this. I think I shared with you a couple of when we talked about this young man who uh, committed suicide because of his grandmother. He felt no one loved him.
Yeah.
Um, and how did you get from where from hearing about your sister to where you are now? But what was the process? I know it couldn't have been easy when you got
No.
the call.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a little bit of context about that day. I was I was getting ready to graduate. I was in my senior year of college, and I was getting ready to graduate in May. And so my mom called me, and we typically talk a lot on the phone. And so when she called me, I just was thinking that it was just a normal conversation. And turns out that it wasn't. I could immediately, sorry, my little girl.
It's okay. Listen, I got everybody knows I got four of them here, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Totally fine. We're moms.
So, yeah, exactly. So I could just tell from my mom's voice that something was terribly wrong, and I didn't know what. And then she proceeded to tell me that my sister had taken her life that morning, and we were just completely devastated as a family and just in shock that something like this tragedy would happen to our family. We have always been a family, a very close-knit family, and so to have something like this just really shake us up at our core was definitely something that was unexpected, to say the least. The biggest thing that I can say, when people ask me, how did you get through it? And you just got a glimpse. you got a glimpse of my why. My 4-year-old, she was 3 at the time. And I remember telling her that her aunt Gina had passed away. And I remember her looking up at me and saying, "Why, Mommy? Why? Why did Aunt Gina have to die?"
Mm.
And in that moment, I, I, I spoke the truth. I said, "You know what, honey? I don't know. I just know that she was really sad." And it was in that moment that I realized that she was looking up to me, and she was looking at me in this moment of my pain and my sorrow and just losing my sister, that I was setting that bar, I was setting that precedent for her, for that whenever she experiences any sort of grief, any sort of loss in her life, she's going to remember me in this moment and say, "How did Mommy handle that? Was she kind of, did she keep it together? Was she bold and strong, or did she just crumble?" And it really kind of, it was like I said, it really was a pivotal moment for me, because I didn't realize just the severity of the moment
Mm.
of just telling my daughter about my sister passing away. Obviously, I didn't go into detail because
Right.
she was so little, but it was hard for her to understand and to try to, wrap her 3-year-old mind around something like somebody dying, because that was something that she had never experienced. But like I said, it was in that moment that I really, really could see, kind of hindsight, I was setting that bar for her, and
Mm.
that this was a really pivotal moment, and not just for me, but for her. And I had that choice. So I'm so glad that I decided
Right.
to to continue and set the example for her.
Oh, and that's amazing because so many times we don't do that for kids, right? We shield them.
Yeah,
We shield them and they forget. I mean, and then they're just like, wait, somebody was here, but now they're not.
yeah, yeah,
And so and so anybody, so that's great that you actually had the conversation. You had the moment of saying, okay, even in your pain, you had a moment of clarity to say, you know what, it's okay to let her know that it's not okay to be that it's not going to be okay, and something is different.
yeah. And I'll share this brief story with you. When I told her that Aunt Gina had passed away, she looked at me with these big eyes and she goes, "Well," she got really quiet and she started to smile. And I was like, "Okay, what's going on?" And she goes, "Well, does that mean she's with Grandpa Lanny?" And that's my dad.
Okay.
And I go, "Yeah, she's with Grandpa Lanny." And she goes, "Oh, okay." And she runs off and plays.
Kids are
It
so
was just
innocent.
like this brief moment, but for her, like, that was enough. That it was that she knew, like, okay, well, she's with Grandpa Lanny, and if she's okay, she's safe, and it's gonna be okay. And that was just such a tender moment that I was so glad
It's so
that
beautiful and so innocent of kids, right? And we
yeah, yeah,
and we if we sometimes I think if we can be just that innocent, we would be further along. Because
yeah, yeah. And it's definitely, it took me by surprise, because after I told her, she gets this big smile on her face, and I'm like, "What is going on?" But when she said that, I was just like completely like, "Oh, that is so sweet."
and that's a blessing. And I'm so glad that you had that. But not a lot of people. There's not a lot of people that have that, right? They go through this whole okay, because like we said earlier, there's this huge stigma around somebody taking their lives, and then there's that level of guilt for those of us who are left behind to deal with it.
Yeah.
Um, uh, how did you, or did you experience any of that
Oh,
guilt, and how did you work through it?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I don't think I've shared this story very, very often, or at least not that I can recall, but the day before unknowingly she passed away. The college that I was attending had a suicide awareness, suicide prevention dinner, if you will, and they were going to discuss all the things of the different signs of what to look for when somebody might be contemplating suicide. And I remember talking to my husband. I knew my sister was struggling, but I remember talking to my husband about it, and I just said, should I go? And he was very supportive. He just said, look, if you want to go, you can go, but that's up to you. And he said, he said, but to be honest, he's like, unfortunately, if their mind's made up, it's very hard for you to persuade them otherwise. So just keep that in mind when you go. And I decided not to go. And in hindsight, obviously, the next day, unknowingly, my sister took her life. And so yes, there was a lot of guilt. There was, even now, I'm still trying to kind of cope with that and work through that and know that just have a lot of grace for myself, because I know that my sister would not want me to stay in my guilt, would not want me to reflect on the day before, that night before, and just continually beat myself up.
Right.
She wouldn't. She wouldn't want me to do that. She would want me to seek hope and to find the joy in life again. And so yes, 100%. Like there is that feeling of guilt. There is that feeling of like, oh my gosh, like why couldn't I see this coming? And so yes, like I don't think that's something that's not. I think everybody tends to feel that way, or at least
Hmm.
in my experience, I felt that. And so, but just act as that reminder to know deep down in my soul that my sister would not want me to stay in that guilt and to stay in that shame.
Right. But again, and that maybe that's the key. Maybe that's what we help people to understand tonight, that um the stigma or the shame you don't have to have that.
Right.
And you can let it go. You can actually say, okay, this happened, unfortunately, but our loved one would not have wanted us to be there and stay there.
Yeah.
And if we know in their knower, we should know that our family members, or our loved one, whoever it may be, that may have done that, that they wouldn't want us stuck
Mm.
here worrying about it, or still thinking about it, um, and then that turning into guilt, turning into um, depression on our side,
Yeah.
and um, and then we forget, then it's deeper than we need to be, and then we could possibly go into that downward spiral as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. It's very easy. And I like to think of it as, if you are even allowing those thoughts of guilt and shame, and I mean, let's call it what they are very toxic emotions. Nobody feels like guilt and shame and is like, I feel amazing, this is
Right.
great. Like, we all know, like, it's not going to, at the end of the tunnel, it's not going to be like this bright light. And
Right.
so I think if we can just, again, allow ourselves that grace, allow ourselves that compassion, and especially towards yourself. I mean, my story could have looked 1,000 times different than what it has morphed into and begun. But I'm so grateful that I was able to not let that be the case. And again, I just reminded myself that she wouldn't want me to feel those very negative emotions. She just wouldn't.
Right. Now, so with that, so you said it's been about a year, right? About a year or so.
Yeah, just a little
Right.
over a year.
So
Mhm.
how did you go from that to now scattering hope, and
Mhm.
Owl and Thistle. How did that all come about within a matter? Because some people are like, well, I'm stuck here, and it's been 3 or 4 years. How do I get? How did you move so quickly from where you were to where
Yeah.
you are now?
Um, there were several processes. I started to journal. I journaled a lot. And again, I had a lot of self compassion for myself, but not only for myself, but for others. I knew that at the times that I would lash out at my husband or lash out at my daughter, especially those first couple months, my husband knew that it had nothing to do with whatever I was mad at. He knew
Mm,
that I was just trying to like process my grief. But I found different resources and different tools to that I could use, like journaling, um, even as something as simple as just getting outside and getting a change of scenery, because that I found to be so helpful. Even something as simple as like making my bed. And I know that people are like, "What, making your bed?" But no, it's the truth. Like it was just these little tiny tweaks, these little tiny routines that I had that allowed me to, process the emotions as they would come, especially the dark negative emotions.
mm.
And I was talking to a friend, and she gave me this brilliant idea that I'll share with you and your guest that um, really I have decided to include that into my subscription box. But it's something that when she was going through a divorce, she was saying that there were, obviously there were good days and there were really bad days. But on the bad days, on those bad moments, she bought herself a journal. And the journal, she bought herself two journals actually. One was black and the other one was like a bright cherry color. And the black journal had all of the dark negative emotions.
Mm.
And she found that it was so important for her to get those out of her, physically get them out of her body and her mind and in her thoughts, and just get it out on paper if you must. And then if you want to rip them up at the end of the day, feel free, but just to physically get it out of your body. And then every night before bed, she would write in her colorful journal.
Oh
And
wow,
everything that went in the colorful journal was all the things she was grateful for
that's
before
good.
she went to bed. And she said it wasn't, sometimes it wasn't even like these grand things, but it was like, hey, I'm happy that I have matching socks. And so
It's
again,
cute.
like I was like, oh yeah, of course. But just little stuff like that, just to be able to help process your emotions in a healthy way. And like you said, good grief,
Right.
and allow the emotions to come and to feel those emotions when they come up is, I have found to be really crucial, because otherwise you may feel like you're being stuck, like you're being sucked back into the grief. And so that was just a tool that when I heard it, when she told me about it, I was like, oh my gosh, that is so amazing. I have to include that in my box.
Yeah, that would be that is awesome. I mean, I have a. I'm trying to. Well, never mind. I have.
Do
I
you have
have
a
one.
similar process?
Well, I do. What? Well, so I wrote I wrote when I wrote my book. I just began to do the same thing. I just began to write because I had to get it out. Like you said, there's more, and I tell people all the time, there's more room out than there is in.
Yes.
Um, and so it couldn't stay if I let it stay there, because I can be honest and say it was changing me. My grief was really really changing me into a person that I did not want to become. So I had to figure it out and quick. Because again, everybody knows I'm a minister, and at the same time, I was just like, God, I'm not feeling you right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, I tell people, I said I was angry, and angry is not, and it's okay. Let me,
Yeah,
before I go further any deeper, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel every emotion that you're feeling, and that's the
it's
key,
all
though.
normal. It's all
Right?
normal.
It's all normal. You can, and it's okay to feel everything, because we're one, we're human, and two, this may be the first significant loss that any of us have had,
Yeah,
and we don't know what to do with it, and we may think that we're acting crazy, but we're not. We're
yeah,
not acting crazy. It is just, excuse me, our normal process.
yeah. It's all normal. And I just want to circle back to what you said. It just like you couldn't keep it in your mind. And I heard a quote. I don't remember who said it, and I apologize, but they said, your mind is meant for having thoughts, not for holding them.
Oh, that's good.
And I was like, wow, that's so true. That's so true. Your mind is meant for having thoughts, not for holding them. So,
That's and that's where we get stuck, right? Because we're like the woulda, coulda, shouldas. I could have did this. I could have done it, because I tell the story often about when my grandmother passed away the day before. I had it was like, go see her, go see her, go see her, but it was, I didn't get the opportunity to. And day of, the next day, that's when she was not coherent. I mean, well, she had her episode and finally passed, and I beat myself up. I really did. I really was just like, I should have went. I should went with my first mind. I said, I never, whenever somebody pops in my head, I always stop. I should have stopped, and I should have. It wasn't until she died in February. It wasn't until September when I visited her tombstone, and I was released. I mean, I literally, it was like I was sitting at her tombstone, and I was like, Grandma, I'm so sorry. And I should have been there the day before. I should have been able to say, you should have heard that. You should have been able to. We had this interaction of you loving me, but what was so amazing to me, it came the day of her day that she passed away, came back to me, and the fact that when I went to the hospital, I said, hey, Graham, and she squeezed my hand, so she knew I was there, and she heard me say I love you, and in her way, at that moment, I was able to get peace. So I would say to somebody who was feeling like I did, um just have a moment and talk to the person, but get
yeah,
it out. Get it
yeah,
out.
yeah. And I'm so glad that you said that. And my, so when my dad passed away, I'm so glad that you just said that because my brother had a very similar experience where
Mm.
he was like, I'm mad and I have all of these things that I'm mad about and that we never got to do. And finally we just had to tell him, like, you just have to go up to the cemetery and you just have to go there and just express all of this to dad and just let him know. And I don't know if he ever did, but I know that whenever I was feeling that way and I did go to the cemetery and visit, it was extremely peaceful, and it was very therapeutic in its own way because your loved one that's passed on will find a way to let you know. And I don't know what that might be for you. Like for me, it may come in like just journaling. I may like
Mhm.
all of a sudden I'm writing something that I'm like, well, where did that come from? But that's probably them saying, hey, just wanted to let you know that I'm here, or even just little reminders. Like my sister loved butterflies. And so whenever I'm at my mom's house, I see there's this black and yellow butterfly that whenever my daughter and me are jumping on the trampoline, like it always comes by. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I bet you that's Gina. So it's just fun, it's fun to see that and it just have those reminders that they're still here.
They are, and it is, and we get them, and it's little things. It's not huge. It's just sometimes it's huge stuff. And I know, like I had a moment a couple of weeks ago. Like I said, everybody knows my best friend passed away. He was a truck driver, and this truck drove past me. Trucks have been driving past me forever since him passing away. But I don't know what it was about this truck, but it sent me into tears. And I was like, for real? And I was like, really, dude? That's what we're doing today?
Yeah,
I was like, ah, but I have been so busy with 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 the grief work and helping other people through their grief that I learned over the summer that when you have these moments as grief bursts, it can be just any little bitty thing. It just throws you out there. The good grief is handling the grief, all of it. Yes, Dr. Jones said that,
yeah.
um,
Thank you,
and it
Dr.
is.
Jones. It's true.
Yeah, it is. And I remember picking up my phone. And I was like, I had a moment, but it's okay because it's okay to have those moments. And I just remember saying to him, I'm like, all right, dude, for real, this is what we're doing today. You just needed me to remember you. I said, I remember you every day.
Yeah, that you just wanted that extra reminder.
Right. I was like, for real, dude. Really? That's what we're doing today. I was like, I got too much going on. I cannot stop.
Like, that's why. That's why.
I was like, dude, I'm doing what I'm trying to honor everything that you told me before you passed away. You cannot show up like this and have me a mess. But I needed to be a mess, because I had been moving and moving and moving and going and going and going, and we need sometimes we just need that moment sit there and reflect
Yeah,
on those people who have come through our lives and just say, okay, we're still here. You're getting better.
yeah, yeah,
But do you understand that it's okay to not move all the time? Sometimes it's okay to sit still.
yeah. And I found like I'm very similar to Troy where I'm like I just have to keep moving, like the Energizer Bunny, like keep going, 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 going. But it's in those moments of just like sitting still and silence where I have found that you're able to get those downloads that you wouldn't normally get if you are constantly like here, do
Right.
this, next, so constantly moving. So
And it is, and you can get quiet, and you needed to, and I probably did at that moment. I probably needed because I'm sure I had all the kids needed something. Then with with both programs, and then it was just it was really he was just like for real, just remember. And it was, and I think it may have been a particularly stressful day, and the moment that I remembered, we just laughed. That was one of our days that we just was silly, and we were silly anyway. But I just needed to just.
yeah,
And I was like, you could have did it a different way. So people, I know,
because you would have been running like crazy, and
right? I
yeah,
was like, really, you gonna make me cry today? I don't want to cry today. I want to keep moving. And it was like, no, you need to sit here for a second and allow and just let it out, let some more out because
yeah,
and keep it and know that I'm always here. And I think that was one of those ones too. I'm still here, Troya. Because that was one of his things that he always used to tell me, Troy, calm, sit down, slow down, chill out.
yeah,
And I needed to hear that because he probably about one of the only ones that could tell me that, and I'm like, all right, whatever, dude. And I'll take 5 minutes.
yeah. I give you five. I give you five.
Right. I said, I'll give you 5 minutes. He's like, yeah. So so somebody else, if you're so that's we say all that I say all that to say is there are moments that like those for all of us if we can, but we have to get clear and get still and be ready for the journey and be ready to receive it, right? Because we're not always in a place where we can receive because we're still wrapped up and stuck in the pain.
Yeah,
And that is not where our family wants us to be. They don't want us to be wrapped up in it at all. They want us to. They really do, and I believe that. I really believe they want us to be, um, live our best life, right?
Yeah, yeah. They want us to look for hope and in the little things too. And even if it's just a glimmer right now, just a spark, that's what they want. They want you to find hope again.
Right. Even if it's the ember, an ember can become a fire. It doesn't take much. It really doesn't take much, and that's why I like, the fact that, you have the scattering hope, as well as the owl and the thistle. I like that. When you were talking about it, when we talked about it during your, during the summit, I was
Mhm.
like, that's amazing because so many people are out here. They don't, and we, particularly in the season that we're in with COVID and everything, people have lost that.
Yeah,
They've lost hope.
yeah.
So when you had scattering, I was like, well, that means it's just going everywhere.
Yeah, that's why when I was thinking of names, and again, this is most likely my sister because it's definitely not a single person job. It's I'm being silent and aware for those too, and I got the visual of scattering hope, and then the dandelion that is in the background of our logo too. So yeah,
Yeah,
scattering hope.
yeah, okay, yes. And I forgot to pull it up, but I mean, I love that. I loved it when she asked me about it. I was like, at first I told you we laughed. I was like, who was this? Dr. Jones and I both said the same thing. We're like, who in the world is this?
Who is she and what is she doing?
It's like, I was like, I don't know who this person is. Go. Excuse me one second. Sorry. One
Good.
of the little people. Here we go. Life.
Yeah, nice.
And I'm so glad that, I followed through, and that we were able to, connect, because, it really, really was an amazing summit. Um,
Oh, thank you.
it was really good, and all the people that you had on, it was just really, needed. We needed it right now. The suicide conversation, people that were dealing with that, and the fact that you're not, and I think that's the biggest takeaway that we should understand. If anybody needs to hear that, you're not by yourself.
Right.
You
Yeah,
you, you are
was
not.
that was one of my intentions that I said throughout the summit every single day, every single evening that we were together was that you're not alone. If you have lost someone to suicide, you're not alone. If you have even, known somebody or thought of somebody that might be even contemplating suicide, you're not alone too. And I've had just some amazing experiences recently since beginning to launch these companies, and they've come forward and saying, Crystal, I've never told anybody this, but back in high school, I contemplated suicide. And so, the work that you're doing is just so amazing and incredible, and I'm so proud of you to do that. And so I just want to emphasize that fact that you are not alone in
Right.
either ends of the spectrum.
Right. And that's the thing. I think that's where people miss, and that is so true, because I think I shared with you. Four. How old is Shania? She's 9. So when she was 5, about 4 or 5 years ago, I was ready to run into oncoming traffic. And what kept me here, like you said, your daughter helped you, was the fact that I was raising my granddaughter.
Mhm.
Um, and even if and that was enough to hold me so I can start loving me again.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the purpose of Owl and Thistle is, right? To try to
Yeah.
get you before you get to this position. So tell
Yeah.
tell them tell everyone about Owl and Thistle, and how that's working, and what do they, if somebody wanted to reach out and talk to you about it.
Yeah, sure. So it's in the beginning stages, and it also follows. I didn't think I mentioned this before, but Scatter and Hope follows a subscription box model, and then also Owl and Thistle focuses and follows a subscription box model too. So I'm in the beginning stages of that, of deciding, what would best serve people where they're at in terms of the different items that we would potentially put inside the box. And the website is not up and running yet. I was hoping that it would be in time for our summit last month, but it just unfortunately wasn't. But the concept behind Owl and Thistle is really to prevent someone from taking their life, and ultimately to allow the person that's receiving that box to feel loved and to feel like they matter, because they do, and to just have that very soft and warm way of letting the people know around you in your life, and especially during COVID, especially now more than ever before, we are seeing just how powerful giving someone a gift can be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where the idea behind Ellen Thistle came into play. And it, I won't go into detail, but it actually began, the idea of this giving someone a gift and the power behind it was kind of birthed out of my relationship with my best friend Diane back in 6th grade.
Okay.
And so, without going into further detail, but that's where the idea came from. And the the power of giving someone a gift, especially now, and it doesn't have to be this big elaborate gift. It can be just something as simple as a text message or an email or a phone call, or better yet, go visit the person and just say, hey, I've been thinking about you, and just want to let you know that I'm here.
Right.
And just reaching out to them, and like, especially now, people in your life need to know that they matter and that they are loved. And like I said earlier, it doesn't matter if you haven't talked to them for years. Make that conversation, start that conversation, and just be honest and be vulnerable with them and say, what, we haven't talked for years, but I just want to check in and see how you're doing. I just want to let you know that you are loved, and I'm so grateful that you're in my life. And how can I support you during this crazy time of years, this crazy time of in our lives?
Right.
Is there anything that I can do? Anything that you need from me? And just listen,
Right.
and just be there, because again, you the thing is just starting that conversation and just having that talk with with the person that you love, with the person that you're close with or not close with, just beginning that conversation and just saying, I just wanted to see how things are going. I just want to see how you're doing, and just really let them know that they matter.
And that is the key, and that's I think that is the biggest key of all, letting folk, reminding folks, especially now. I mean, like I said, we have just so much. You can't you're not, you don't know who you can talk to, who you can't. So I mean, touch, and I
Yeah.
mean, but just, if nothing else, just to say, hey, I'm just calling to say I love you.
Mhm. Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
this Stevie Wonder song,
Yeah.
and to say how much I care.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an old song, Troya. Um,
Yeah. It sounds good. I love it.
I don't know why, but it is, and people need to hear that, because there's so much uncertainty in the world, and we're excited about Alan Thistle, and when it gets up and running, and
I will
um
let you and your in the audience know when
please.
it is up in full swing. And I know that I got the logo done just recently, and so we're making traction.
And that's it, but you're walking in the process. So it doesn't, and people, I said, somebody asked me the other day, I said, listen, I just started walking. I didn't know what it was going to look like. I just started moving forward, and that's the key. So as you can see, we're both of us a work in progress.
Yes. Yes.
But the key is, we started walking, we started moving, and we started understand. And I think, and I can't speak for Crystal, but I can say for me, being able to help others has been the its own reward, and a huge blessing. to see people begin to come on the other side of it.
Yeah.
And this, like you said, the stories that you're hearing about people saying, this is what I had contemplated.
Yeah. Yeah. It was so touching that they felt comfortable in with me to share that and be open and to share that very vulnerable part of their life. And I just was so honored that they felt comfortable with me and to share that. And so yeah, it's been incredible. And like you said, just being able to let people know that they're not alone and to serve them in that capacity is going to be so rewarding.
Yeah, it is. So I'm, because we people, we come from a family that we have a servant mentality.
Mhm.
So to be able to serve in this capacity, it's just been, like you said, very rewarding, and I'm blessed to be in this space.
Yeah.
I just, it's and grief work can be very hard, but the plus and the benefit for me is when someone says, I was struggling here because I was missing my loved one, but now they can actually get out the bed, or
Mhm.
now they can think about them in a good way, or think about them without crying for the first time in weeks. That's what matters to me. And normalizing something that's not normal,
Right.
because grief is hard, but being able to understand that we can get through it
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. It's together. It's all about community. It's all about you are not alone, and just truly they feel that in your soul because
Yes.
um, as you know, the God that created us does not want us to be alone. He
Yeah.
does not want us to feel alone. And I always have, and I said this throughout the summit, God doesn't want you to do this alone. Your heart's been broken enough that to for you to believe that lie that you have to do this alone, don't
Right.
do it. Just
Right.
don't. It's not, he created us to be in a sense of community, to have that strong sense of community, and
Yep.
to not face our trials and tribulations alone.
Yes, and
Really important.
that is the biggest key, and something that came out a couple of weeks ago. I think it was I don't know if it was last week or the week before last. And understand this: that God is not punishing you by by allowing your loved one to pass away. It's not a punishment. So if you think so don't believe that.
Yeah.
Um, it's not a punishment. He's not trying. That's sadistic. That's mean. To
Yeah.
think that that's not the God that we serve. So with that
No, and
said,
that's not the God that you would know, or if you don't know him yet, that's not the God that you would want to follow and
no,
love. And
no, he
that's
would
not what he's
not.
about.
No, no, that would just be very, very mean, and just mean
Yeah,
and mean some
yeah,
more. And that
that's
is not who we
cruel.
are. We
Yeah,
serve yeah, and very cruel. And but we serve a God who loves you. And like I said, like Crystal said, he doesn't want us to do it alone. Not only does he send a comforter, but he also sends human people to come to be that comfort for you in your time of need. And again, we just have to. Sometimes we just need that permission
yeah,
to break. And so I think I can say for Crystal and I both, go ahead. It's okay. You can break.
yeah,
You can break. You will be okay. It doesn't. You can come up stronger than where you were, but you can't fix. Nothing can be fixed unless it's take the band-aid off. Go ahead, cry, have a tantrum, then pick up the phone, and uh, look. You can look me up. You can look Crystal up. We're here. You can look Dr. Jones up. All of us are
yeah,
here. That is what we do. That is what we have been called to do in this season. And as crazy as it sounds, God knew that that Corona was coming, and that we would need to be in this space.
yeah,
And yes, she and I have lost people that we've loved that are very close to us. However, We understand that grief is not the loss of just a person; it's a person, place, or thing that we're emotionally attached to. Um, so there's some people that divorce, um, raise a single. You now have to raise kids alone. I mean, all these different things. That's all loss, and it's all and there will also things that will keep you stuck, and that's not that's not God's desire or ours. Um, so I say that to say we are getting ready to close out. However, if you have any questions for Crystal, please put them in the chat box right now so that she can answer any questions, and I will give her the last word for the night. But remember, Saturday is Soul School. Next week, good grief, we have a conversation with a young lady who is a widow. She's a widower, a widow, and her story is absolutely amazing. The time may change next week only because I haven't. I have. Yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about the time, and then the following week, that time will absolutely change because we have someone coming on, but they're in Italy, so we're trying to do, and they're 6 hours ahead.
Really?
So we need, so we'll need to adjust for her. So I will let you all know ahead of time that because 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock for us is 2 o'clock in the morning for her. Dr. Jones said, "Thank you, Crystal."
Oh, thank you, Dr. Jones. I'm so glad to see you again.
She so like I said, I'm so, from I mean, and that's not just like God is really connecting all of us because we were all in our own little corners of the world doing the same thing, or at least trying to do the same thing. Now we're all connected.
It's beautiful.
Yay!
I love it.
It is a beautiful thing. So with that said, I'm going to let Crystal have the last words. You all know how to get in touch with me. Again, Crystal, what is the if anybody wants to get in touch with you, do you have like a email or?
Yeah. Yeah. So you can reach me at either scatteringhope.com. And like I said, scatteringhope.com is up. And Alan Thistle, you can reach me at hello@alanthistle.com. So that's the email is hello@alanthistle.com.
Is Ann spelled out?
Yes. And let's see, can I put that in the chat? Maybe?
So I should have put hello. Hello. Let me get it.
There we go. Do you see it? Maybe?
Yes. Enough. Okay. It'll pop up. It takes
Oh,
a
okay.
second on my side.
Yeah. Or
Um,
if you even want to just go to scatteringhope.com and just shoot me an email then and just say that you're interested in Alan Thistle and I can connect with you that way too if that's easier.
okay. So again, remember, and like I said, I'm gonna let Crystal um close out and oh, you did it. Okay, here it is. I see it.
Okay.
Let me move it over here. La, 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 la. Um, if you have any, and again, she's an awesome resource, and she's just, I really enjoyed when we met. So I'm so glad for the connection. I really am, and again, I was so honored to be a part of her summit. And it was a really good summit, as well. A
Thank you.
lot of good
I was honored to
information.
have you and Dr. Jones. I'm
Yeah.
so glad that you guys said yes and that I got the opportunity to meet you.
Yes, I'm telling you. At first, I was, and it was. Oh, I said I got to step up my game, right, Dr. Jones? We were both talking about that. I was like, "Ooh, who?" I said, "PR." I mean, it was just. I was like, "Wait a minute." I was like, "Whoa, they professional. I don't know who these people are."
Nope, that was me just simply, I need help. I've never done this before and help.
But it was. I was just because, and like I said at first, I said because I was like, "Dr. Jones, did you like almost not read the email?" She was like, "Yeah." But I'm glad we did. I'm glad we did.
I'm
But it
glad
also
it did too.
it showed me I was, but it still showed me like, okay, I gotta step up my game. Uh, but listen, um, and before Crystal closes this out, I think it's important that we laugh. I think it's important that you laugh, that you get back to the laughter. I can't speak for Crystal, but I know for me, the first time I was able to laugh and not feel guilty about it, that's when I knew I was on the road to recovery,
Yeah.
because I was able to see the joy in life again, and not feel badly, because I was still grieving, and you can grieve and still laugh.
Yeah.
You can still grieve and still have fun, um, and that is the joy of the Lord. And we hope that's what we hope that people get to, that part, that piece. So we're going to let Miss Crystal have the last word, as I always make sure that I do. And again, everybody, thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back here on Saturday for Soul School at 11 p.m. Our guest is from Truth Talks, and she's from Jamaica. So, yay, we have
Yeah.
people from all over.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So my first what do you call it? Utah people from Utah.
I know. My husband laughed. He's like, "You." He's like, "I don't know what to call you." I'm like, What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, I'm from Oregon, so you call me Oregonian." I'm like, "Okay, well, like Utah, you." I don't know.
My friend from Utah. We'll just
Yeah,
call it like
there
that.
you go.
Well, I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna give you the floor now. It's all yours.
Sounds good. Yeah, I just want to just again just emphasize that you God can take those broken pieces and morph it into something truly magical. And don't feel that you don't feel that he can't, because I know without a shadow of a doubt he can. I mean, look at my story, look at your story. He can absolutely take those broken pieces and just build something truly beautiful. And so I will close out with that.
Thank you so much. Be blessed. I do want to, and I know I forgot to say that. We're praying for my we had a family member. My nephew's mother just passed away, so I want to make sure that we pray. When we talk about the Smith family. But thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate you. And so with that said, I get real excited about my stuff. So I just got a new outro. So I'm gonna go ahead and play that, and then we'll be done. We'll talk soon.
Okay.
That's funny. That Dr. Jones is so funny.